gentlemen, and hello and welcome. You're watching a very special episode right from Bharat Mandapam, which is essentially the venue of the AI India Impact Summit 2026. This is the first time that a nation of the Global South is essentially hosting a summit, the first time that an AI summit is happening in Global South, so that becomes all the more special. Remember, the last time it happened in France, and before that in UK in Bletchley Park and in Seoul. So this is a significant moment given the kind of disruptions that we're seeing around AI, the economic disruptions, more importantly, the geoeconomic, disruptions also globally that we're seeing. So AI assumes significance because it is one of those disruptions that has, of course, raised many questions on the viability, number one, of multiple jobs, the viability of several traditional industries. The third thing it's put into question is the fact that what kind of jobs are going to be coming up, what kind of skills will we need. So, of course, that whole focus on labor markets with respect to AI disruption is writ at large. And, of course, that is something that we hope that the summit is going to address. So these are some of the things that were also discussed today. In fact, let me take you through what Anantha Nageshwaran, India's CEA, the chief economic advisor, said. He said that India's transition in the age of artificial intelligence will not happen by drift. In fact, he's also called for urgent policy action, political will, and structural reforms to manage the emerging market shifts. The second big takeaway is the fact that Jitin Prasada, the IT MOS for both IT and, of course, the Commerce Department, the Ministry of Commerce, has essentially stated that while India is in a good position as far as AI and talent is concerned, but we need to keep upskilling. We need to keep up the momentum so that we don't lag behind in the race. Now, remember, his comments are very important given the kind of developments, very fast-paced developments that we've seen. Now, one example of that is what's happened with Anthropic's Claude AI tool. That plugin in itself has wreaked havoc as far as Wall Street's tech companies are concerned. And here, with the IT index, we've of course seen the index see red, and of course there have been losses as far as this particular index is concerned. There have been questions about the viability in itself, the existence of AI companies, and whether this is a significant challenge. So those commentary and those developments are very important even as we talk about AI. The second big reason why this summit is important, and at the time that it's happening, is, remember, when it happened in France, the disruptions related to Donald Trump's tariffs were not really that severe. But post that, we have seen absolute mayhem when it comes to trade, when it comes to tariffs, and which is why it's important that all of these leaders are going to be coming here, because we are going to be seeing the heads of states from 20 countries who are going to be coming to India. In fact, Emmanuel Macron is coming to India tonight, and thereafter he will have a meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Brazil's, President Lula da Silva is also going to be here. We're going to be seeing country premiers from Switzerland, from the Netherlands, from many countries of the Global South as well. So that is an important message that India is trying to send out, that it needs to bridge that bridge between the Global West and the Global South. That needs to be bridged, given the fact that Global West has largely been, resource plush, while there has been, some sort of disparity, especially when it comes to Global South. India will also be presenting its point of view on how it can take leadership in AI. Now, if you remember the past few summits, they have largely focused on the aspect of AI has been related to the disruption that it's caused, the danger aspect of AI, the safety aspect of AI. India's plan, however, is to focus on how AI can be made democratic, how AI can be used for the spread of social services, for government's plans, and which is something that we have made possible via DPI, Digital Public Infrastructure. So India's plan is to make AI affordable, to make AI inclusive, and to make AI for all. So that is going to be the big messaging. India is also looking at arriving at a common consensus amongst all the nations, all the participating nations. So this week is going to be full of activity. Now, let me also take you through another very important development that has come up, and this one is from a very well-known startup, Anthropic. I was just talking about Anthropic, but guess what? They're opening up their new office here. In fact, the leaders of the company, the AI startup company, which is establishing its office here in India, in Bengaluru, they were talking. In fact, Dario Amodei, the founder, he essentially has reportedly also said that Anthropic's run rate business has doubled over past months since he visited India, and these AI models that are developing, they can be used for cyber attacks. The other big thing is India's CTO Rahul Patil of the company said that India is scaling rapidly and applying AI on a massive scale, and the goal is to deliver fastest products and platforms. So, of course, a lot that's happening as far as AI is concerned. We still have 4 more days to go. In fact, I had a bunch of conversations earlier in the day, so let's listen in first to what the CEO of the India AI mission, Abhishek Singh, had to say on what India is intending to achieve via this summit. Take a look. Joining us now is Mr. Abhishek Singh, the architect of the India AI mission. In fact, sir, thanks very much for taking the time out and speaking to us here on ET Now. First things first, I want to get in your thoughts on how is this summit different from the ones that have earlier happened in France, in UK, in Seoul?
So the summit is bigger in scale. This summit is much more comprehensive. The agenda covers a wider range of subjects. The participation is much bigger than what has happened anywhere. The expo is much bigger. So it's like the world's largest gathering of AI stakeholders who can try to bring people and try to set up the agenda for the future. How we can use AI responsibly, how we can use AI for social good, how we as the world can come together to ensure that AI works for all.
Right. So in terms of deliverables, what are some of the key deliverables that you are looking at when the summit ends?
You will get to hear in the days to come. It will be more about democratizing AI. It will be more about working together. It will be more about making safe and trustworthy AI. It will be more about sharing things. It will be more about using AI for social good.
So what about a common consensus and a common declaration agenda? How will that be arrived at?
You will get to hear soon. You will get to hear soon.
Well, an important voice as far as this summit is concerned. And in fact, let us tell our viewers that ET Now was the first channel to get Abhishek Singh, the CEO of India AI mission, first on the channel early in the morning. But let's now move on to the other special conversation that we had, and it was with the Australian envoy to India, Mr. Philip Green. Mr. Philip Green was talking to me earlier in the day on the kind of collaboration that Australia and India can have on AI. And of course, he also had a comment to make on India's approach to AI, which is a less resource-intensive approach. Take a look. Thanks very much, Excellency, for taking the time out and speaking to us here on ET Now. We're talking even as the AI summit has commenced here in New Delhi. And of course, we're seeing participation from 20 global heads of governments all across the world. So thank you very much once again for taking the time out. Let me first get your thoughts on the fact that this is the first AI summit that's happening in the global south. How do you think India can sort of play a vital role, especially as far as taking leadership and bridging this very, very important gap as far as the global north and global south is concerned?
Well, I think India's got a huge role to play in this important domain. India is, of course, a natural bridge builder between the global north and the global south. Australia strongly supports India's role as a leader in the global south, and that applies across a lot of domains, but in the tech domain, it's a bit special, isn't it? Because India has skills and capabilities. DPI is one. We see the huge rollout of IT services from your great firms like Infosys and HCL Tech. We see massive centres in Bangalore and Hyderabad, which are global centres of IT governance and knowledge. So, you know, for us, India is a key player in this field globally and is a natural bridge builder, as frankly we are. I mean, for us, the global south is also important. It's where we live. We're one of the few, perhaps the only developed country that's completely surrounded by developing countries. And for us, it's the people of the South Pacific in particular whom need more access to IT and AI. And that's the reason why we're bringing, as well as our high-level delegation, also a delegation of Pacific leaders to this global AI summit.
But Excellency, how do societies, democratic societies, ensure that AI does not undermine open societies, but instead strengthens them?
Well, there's a number of ways we can do that. We can do it through the relevant international negotiations, through the UN elsewhere, and Australia is a partner for India in that space. We want We want AI systems that work for people. We want AI systems where the benefit doesn't go to a tiny minority. And we want AI systems that are safe. And so that's a field in which we are operating at the global level. But, you know, each of us in our own domains has to do what is necessary domestically. I mean, we in Australia, we've just produced last year this national AI plan. That's a way for all Australians to have a sense of what we're driving at here. You will have seen that Australia has led the world in limiting the availability of social media for young people. And that's a deliberate recognition of the costs on mental health of social media. So we're doing that. And another step that we'll be taking very shortly is to establish an AI safety institute for Australia so that ordinary Australians can understand better what the opportunities and the risks are. So, I mean, the answer to your question, we operate globally, and in that global domain, Australia and India are partners, but each of us has to operate domestically. And I think, you know, in our case, the change we've made on availability of social media for young people is something which has captured in attention around the world. I see that a couple of Indian states are interested in similar actions, and countries like France and the UK internationally are also taking a big interest in the way in which that rolls out in Australia.
Now, you've spoken about collaboration between Australia and India. How can both the countries make sure that the benefits of AI reach everyone, and the fact that AI is inclusive, while India is, of course, focused on making sure of that? But what more needs to be done as far as that particular aspect is concerned?
Well, I mean, that's a big issue for Australia because, you know, we are a large continent and many of our people live in the urban centres, but an important part of our population, including our Indigenous population, lives in rural and remote areas. And we all know that, those of us who live in India, know that democratising AI is a very important objective for this government. So, I mean, in our case, it's about making IT capability available for the widest range of people, including in the underserved domains in our rural and regional communities. But in terms of what we can do together, let me just focus on this for a second, because, you know, science and research has been a key part of our partnership for more than 20 years now. We've spent 600 crore rupees, that's just the Australian government, on science and technology partnerships between Australia and India. And, you know, just to give you a sense of this, Australia is a country which produces more than the average amount of innovation. I mean, Google Maps was invented in Australia.
All right, let's now move on to our next special conversation. In fact, this one is centered around what startups bring to the table. Remember, Minister Ashwini Vaishnav has spoken various times at various instances in the past about startups actually working on indigenous models with respect to AI. India is going to have its own LLMs launched at the event. So let's put the focus on startups. Now, before this event was to begin, NESA, which is an AI startup, it bagged a funding of, guess how much? It was $1.2 billion. That was the capital raise that the startup did, and this came in from Blackstone. In fact, I spoke to the company's top executive, Sharat Sanghi, who told us about how they're going to be deploying this funding and which part of AI are they going to be working in. So essentially, this is going to be an AI infrastructure-led company, but can India put its focus only on infrastructure, or should it put its focus on AI models? Here's what he had to say.
Okay, so our intent is to, our vision is to democratize AI in the country and to provide the infrastructure needed on which startups can build not only LLMs but also any application that they want to build using AI. Our message, and also we want to create awareness. We want to make sure that everybody knows that we can provide this infrastructure. We have a lot of demos of our platform in our booth, our orchestration platform, our observability platform, and our security platform as well. We want to deploy AI at scale, and that's the message that we want to give, that India is no longer behind. We want to encourage people building, whether it's the research community or the startup community or even enterprises, to use AI, and now they have the infrastructure required to do so. As far as the policy makers are concerned, there's already the AI mission, and I think the government is doing a lot to make sure that India doesn't lag behind. And we are part of the AI mission family, and we are happy. We want to. I think where we would want the government to also look at is how to make sure that the AI is responsible and use of AI is responsible, and we are happy to contribute towards that.
Right. So just one final question. Let me ask you about the, of course, summit. How do you think India's approach, especially when it comes to AI, is different from the other countries? India has decided to be focused on a less resource-intensive approach versus what you see, for instance, in the United States. They've primarily focused on developing LLMs. Where do you think India is currently, especially when it comes to taking leadership in AI globally?
So I think India, while we may not be, obviously the US and China have been ahead, but I think India is playing it smart. And I think we have a lot of good startups, a lot of good research and education institutes that have built, one is foundational models for Indian languages, but also vertical applications, not only for India, but also for the world. So this is one area where India normally India is known as the outsourcing hub or the back office of the world, but this is one area where we can leapfrog and actually build for the world. So and already you see startups doing that. You see companies like InVideo and Emergent doing that, right? They're not only present in India but across the world. And I think our aim is to provide the infrastructure for all of these startups and enterprises to build.
All right, so a big message coming in from NASA that building in India but building for the world is India's big strength. In fact, India can build infrastructure, but it can also focus on cost-efficient AI models. That's the word that's coming in from the startup community. Ladies and gentlemen, but lots more coming up on the other side. You don't go anywhere. Keep watching this very special episode of the AI Summit. I'm coming to you live from Bharat Mandapam, from the heart of the national capital. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a very short commercial break. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching a very special episode of the AI Summit, in fact, which is currently underway in Bharat Mandapam, right here in the national capital where I am. In fact, I'm coming to you live from this media center, this expansive media center, which has been set up along the lines of what happened during the G20 summit. In fact, right now it's not buzzing as much, but starting tomorrow onwards, this will be buzzing with activity. In fact, let's now get on and move on to a next conversation that we have lined up for you. Well, this conversation is with a very special guest. He's somebody who's been part of the tech and IT ecosystem for a very long period of time, and of course startups ecosystem as well. He is Rajan Anandan, the MD of Peak 15. Thank you very much, Rajan, for taking the time out and speaking to us here on ET Now. We wanted to speak to you here on ground tomorrow, but nonetheless, thank you very much once again and welcome to ET Now. In fact, let me ask you the first question. Clearly, we are at an inflection point of AI, but what does this time period essentially bode for India, especially if we see the next 3 to 4 years? What are they going to look like for India, especially when we talk in the context of AI?
Well, firstly, it's a very exciting week, I think, for AI around the world, and especially for all of us in India with the AI Summit happening in Delhi. So can't wait to get there tomorrow. Look, I think India already is, if you look at AI adoption among consumers, India is the #1 or #2 market for the large consumer AI platforms, right? ChatGPT, Gemini, and others. So we are well on our way, I would say, in terms of consumer adoption. If you fast forward 2, 3, 4 years, India will unquestionably be the largest consumer market for consumer AI applications. So that's number one. I think second, starting this year, we've already started seeing an inflection in voice AI, and both on consumer, but also in enterprise. So I know the second big thing I think we're going to start seeing is really explosive growth of voice AI adoption in enterprise and small businesses. And I think within 3-4 years, India could become the largest voice AI market in the world in terms of minutes of voice AI consumed, if you could think of it that way. I think the third thing that we're going to see is unprecedented adoption of AI in government services, right? Be it consumer-facing government services or internal productivity improvements for government. So all of these three things, spell that India will go from being one of the largest consumer markets for AI adoption to being a broad-based.
Right, Rajan very rightly said, of course, India has the demographic dividend, but let me ask you one more question, and this essentially is on, the various views that have essentially come, whether India can actually be an AI powerhouse or its strength. Will it remain a services powerhouse, given what we've seen with the IT sector? Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, so look, basically there are two types of opportunities that we're seeing, right? The first set of opportunities are Indian entrepreneurs building AI from India, but for the world. The second set of opportunities are Indian entrepreneurs building AI for the Indian market, right? And those are either consumer applications, enterprise applications, vertical AI applications.
Right, and let me now move on to the global context and comparisons which often come in, especially when you see the United States, for instance, which has sort of put in mega billions of dollars of budgets, especially when we talk about AI, when local language models are concerned. But India's approach has been rather less resource intensive, and it's more focused on the application layer. Do you think that is the strategy India should pursue, given the fact that it is looking leadership, especially when it comes to AI?
Yeah, look, so firstly, India is absolutely going to have a very significant play at the model layer. And this week, we'll see that launches from a whole set of companies, including Sarvam. I think what you will see with Indian AI innovators is they will focus on uplifting the lives of 1.4 billion Indians, right? If you think about it, the US is very, very focused on AGI. China, in many ways, is much more focused on real-world applications, building models that actually perform as well in real-world applications. You will see India really focusing more on the latter, which is how can we build models that are highly performant, that are SOTA, but for applications that are here and now, right? So voice AI would be a very interesting example, because today, if you look at voice AI in Indian languages, Sarvam is state-of-the-art, both in speech to text and text to speech, and the kind of growth that they're seeing, both for their voice AI agents as well as the APIs that are all built off their own models is really quite spectacular, right? We've seen the same thing with OCR. I think last week they put something out as Sarvam that shows that OCR Sarvam today is. So what you will see in, I would say, models that range from, let's say, 2 or 3 billion parameters to about 100 billion parameters that are Indic languages. Indian companies are going to build models that are truly SOTA. And
Absolutely. So the focus is going to be on building models that are, of course, in local languages. And of course, these are not going to be very expensive models, but the focus is going to be on delivery of services. Well, on that note, Rajan, thank you very much for speaking to us on ET Now. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, it's a wrap on this special show on ET Now. Do come back to us tomorrow for more news and updates right here from the venue of the India AI Impact Summit.